The origin of Captain Underpants. Dave Pilkey created Captain Underpants when he was 8 years old. It all happened back in 1974 when Dave was a second grader at St. John's Lutheran School in Elyria, Ohio. It might not surprise you to know that Dave Pilkey was the class clown back in the second grade. He was also the class artist. Whenever Dave got a chance, he would draw funny pictures to make his friends laugh. Dave also folded sheets of paper in half to make his own fliporamas, which depicted ridiculous scenes of mayhem. He and his friends called them flip actions back then. Like George and Harold, Dave Pilkey even made his own original comic books. All of these things were seen as great distractions and annoyances by Dave's cantankerous teacher, Ms. Ribble. It was this very teacher, however, who inadvertently gave Dave the idea for Captain Underpants. One day, Miss Ribble was talking to the class and she happened to use the word underwear. Everyone in Dave's class immediately began to laugh. This irritated Dave's teacher and she got very angry. She scolded the children. Underwear is not funny! This only made the class laugh even harder. At that moment, Dave Pilkey had an epiphany. He realized that underwear was a very powerful thing. Just the mere mention of it could make everyone laugh. That day, Dave Pilkey drew his very first drawing of a caped hero named Captain Underpants. Dave's drawing was an immediate hit with his classmates. Ms. Ribble, however, was not amused. She immediately tore up Dave's drawing and sent him out into the hallway. Dave Pilkey was no stranger to spending time in the hallway. In the second grade, Dave got banished to the hallway almost every day. Usually he spent this time sneaking up and down the corridors, changing the letters on all of the bulletin boards around so that they spelled out ridiculous things. It wasn't long before Miss Ribble got wise to Dave's hallway shenanigans and moved a spare desk out there so he would stay put. Usually Dave just drew silly pictures while he sat at his hallway desk, but on the day of Dave's great epiphany, he was inspired. He began making a comic book about his underwear-clad hero. Captain Underpants flew into action on the pages of Dave's story, defeating terrible monsters, rescuing innocent children, and saving the world in crazy flip-action scenes. When Dave was finally allowed back into the classroom, he brought his comic book in with him. It didn't take long before Captain Underpants' first adventure began causing outbursts of laughter and hysteria. Ms. Ribble seized Dave's comic, ripped it up, and told him he'd better straighten up. You can't spend the rest of your life making silly books, she told him. Despite his teacher's admonishments, Dave Pilkey did indeed continue making silly books. In fact, Dave got his very first silly book published when he was still in college. After he graduated, Dave wrote and illustrated many more silly books about dogs, cats, mice, dragons, and dumb bunnies. When he wasn't making books, Dave visited hundreds of schools and libraries and talked with children about his experiences as an author. Every time Dave spoke, he would draw a giant picture of Captain Underpants, which made the children laugh hysterically. At the end of his presentations, kids would always ask Dave the same question. Are you ever going to make a book about Captain Underpants? I don't know, Dave would reply. Do you think I should? The answer was always a resounding, roof-raising scream of, Yes! So in 1996, Dave Pilkey began writing and drawing the book you are holding in your hands right now. Dave wanted to include as much of his own childhood as possible in the book, so he based George and Harold on himself. Like Dave, George and Harold are class clowns and class artists. They make comics, they switch letters around on signs, and they are always getting in trouble with their teachers and principal for one thing or another. And, of course, their action scenes are always presented in Fliporama.